picking up trash. Bit of a cool morning, but refreshing. So good to be out there helping out the town. I don't know who that Santa Claus is sitting there, but Rocio did some work. Yeah, I think that might be game on there, Steve. Anyway, hopefully you guys all had a great Christmas, New Year, and all the holidays. We did, right before we did, had a little staff potluck over at 26 Hunter Road and played some games, ate some great food. We had some really good cooks on the team, so we had a good time. And hopefully all y'all had a great holiday break as well. We may bring this up to you at some point, but the third bullet on there, that decor, we want to kind of step up the game with decorating the terminal and decorating the entrance to the airport and stuff like that. So we're going to try and come up with some ideas internally on how to do that, and if it rises to your level for approving some funding or something like that, we may bring you back some concepts to take a look at. But airports are a nice place to have.
You mean for Christmas or in general?
For Christmas.
Okay.
Yep.
Either way is okay, but I mean.
Well, in general, we're going to build a new building. How's that for in general?
There you go.
We're gonna take it big.
Take it to the extreme.
That's right. We'll go all the way. All right. We did have a great field trip. Look at how many kids were out there. All of them posed in front of the fire truck. There was a great write-up too that went out through the county's social media and all the press release channels, and also made the Hilton Head Sun. So if anybody gets that newspaper, there was a nice picture and article in there. But it was a great opportunity, and our team, Chief Robinson, our ARF chief, did a great job coordinating this. Rocio coordinated a bunch of this, but they were able to get, obviously, the Coast Guard, Civil Air Patrol, thank you. The woman that you see kind of instructing the classroom is a pilot for United, and she was able to come and speak to the kids about the pilot track. But we had different stations where the students were able to go, so it was nice. With a big group like that, you really want to split them up. So I think they're able to get about 10 to 15 people in each group and move them through the different stations. So for a few hours they were at the airport and got to learn kind of the ins and outs of not just the airport and ARF, but they got to get up on the Coast Guard helicopter, and they got to climb in the CAP plane and see the fire truck and everything too. So good opportunity for them, and we got, like I said, some real nice PR value out of that too. So if you know groups who want to come out, we'll see them.
Yeah, did they contact you, or did you contact them?
They did. They contacted us. Their science teacher was doing a focus on kind of beginners aerospace engineering, and now so many of these high schools are doing engineering classes that some of them just want to come out to the airport and see how things work and see airplanes and stuff like that. So it's a cool opportunity for kids that young to get excited about aviation. But they contacted us, and we have a couple of groups a year who come out, but we're certainly wide open to having visitors. It's good for our people too. It gives them a chance to intermingle with the kids and teach them. All right, quick update. The terminal is underway. Nothing big going on right now other than kind of organizational things out there. The fence has been put up, and what the contractor has done, what we coordinated before getting going, was there's a temporary security fence that's installed out on the new apron area. So it effectively brings the project out of the secure area. So you don't have to have a SIDA badge to be in there to work on the project. That's now outside the fence. So we've got our approvals with TSA and everybody to make that happen, but it just eliminates a lot of headaches from badging. So right now what they're doing, they're procuring materials, and they're being stored off-site, but all the heavy steel and stuff like that is over in Hardyville, and that'll be brought to the island when it's time to put the erector set together. But everything's kind of getting going. Subs are coming on board. I think we had the site prep guys out this week, so things are starting to pick up, and before too long, we'll see a little bit more progress out there. So exciting times, and it's on the move. All right, we had that wind last week on Tuesday with that gust or the system that came through. We had some pretty significant gusts, and frankly, we had more damage from that little storm than we've had out of any of the hurricanes and tropical storms that have come through in the last 10 years. What got damaged this time was there was a canopy over outbound baggage. It was a nice, beautiful awning system out there. And then we had the baggage rollers, but that awning system caught an updraft of a gust, and it lifted that awning up, swept it across the roof, wiped out all the airline antennas for their ground-to-air communications, and then crashed down and ruined the baggage rollers. So a significant amount of damage. At first glance, I thought it was just the awning, but we estimated it's probably, up over $100,000 worth of damage. So fairly significant damage at the airport.
The control tower clocked a gust of 55 knots around 3:45 that afternoon. That's the highest we saw anywhere in the area. And then the power went out. And by the way, the backup generator didn't come back on in the tower.
Right. Yeah, we heard we actually closed the tower shortly thereafter because they couldn't operate. Nobody was flying, thank goodness, because it would not have been good judgment to be flying in that. But that's about the time this happened, so it may have been that gust, but it was definitely one of those rogue gusts that came through. So we're working with risk management. We've got the insurance claims in and everything. Not entirely sure whether or not we'll replace this, because with the terminal project going on, this is in the second phase, it's not in the first phase, but it was an area that really the airlines weren't using. So I've sent them an update and asked them all for some input as to whether they really need this to be replaced or not. They didn't use the baggage rollers, and they really never worked underneath that awning. So if it's all the same to them, we probably won't replace that, but we'll see. We'll get some feedback from them.
John, was the communication restored for the tower?
We're working on it. Americans, they're the only ones operating right now, and they're communicating. So I don't know if they've got a secondary method. We're trying to figure that out on who sustained how much damage with their antennas. Some of them were just bent, and some were completely taken off of their base. So we're trying to assess that, and we've reached out to the airlines so that if they've got a claim, they can work with us at the county to get that taken care of. So we don't know yet, but American's operating, so they're obviously talking. They don't necessarily have to have that antenna all the time. Sometimes they just walk out on the ramp with a handheld and can talk to the airplane. So they've been able to make do, and then once we find out from their technicians the extent of their damage, we'll work with them. But it was significant. It pulled the awning right off the face of the building and pulled some of the building off too. All right, quick business update. I had an update with our air service development consultants last week, so I just want to share a couple of data points with you from the Q3, and this is calendar Q3 report. We get our reports a quarter behind. That's when it becomes publicly available. Airlines get it sooner than that, but we have to wait. Just a couple of interesting points. I didn't put this in there, but because there's just a lot of data. But our consultant gave me a spreadsheet that compared 2022 and 2023. And it's interesting that the top 25 cities that are our destinations, top 25 destinations, remain almost exactly the same from 22 to 23. Some of them changed. The top 10 was exactly the same, except Charlotte moved up and took Philly out this year. So Philly fell out, Charlotte moved in. But other than that, the top 10 cities remain the same. And just so you know, number one, 2 years in a row is Newark. They're the most popular destination out of here. LaGuardia was second, and I'm going through this year's. DCA's third, Pittsburgh was fourth, Chicago's fifth, Cleveland's sixth, Columbus is seventh. So I hope there's airline people listening. You got to get us to Ohio, guys. Boston was eighth, Atlanta ninth, and Charlotte 10th. So it's kind of funny that our year-round big hub at Charlotte only made it up to 10 this year, and last year Charlotte was 20. So people are going to Charlotte and other places, obviously. This is getting the end destination. So not many people are just flying from here to Charlotte, but they're obviously using that hub to get to their one-stop destinations. So those are your Pittsburghs, your sometimes LaGuardias. So that's it's interesting that some of those big cities are always ranking in the top 10. And then when we get to talking about marketing and things like that, and the reason we apply for Town of Hilton Head Island ATAX funds is because we've got to market the cities that I just named off are not inexpensive cities to market in. But if that's where we're doing business back and forth, we've got to have a presence up there. So a couple $100,000 marketing budget is not enough to get that done the way we need to. So we're going to continue to work on increasing that, but it's a big effort to market, just so you see that. And then in general, the average fares were lower this year, and the revenues were higher. So in general, that's the best of both worlds. Passengers are getting some better fares, and the airlines are actually making a little bit more money. How they're doing that, I'm not sure, but that's what the numbers show. So kind of a good report from that. And the load factors that we saw from Q3, now Q3 is our summer season, so that's where the meat of our business comes from. Load factors are really good this year, so all the routes did pretty well. I think it was key that Delta put LaGuardia and Atlanta together because they perform very well together. So I think the airlines kind of have it figured out where they are, but moving right into the second point there is still a very real pilot shortage out there. It's getting a little bit better. UPS and FedEx have stopped hiring, which is a good sign for us because that means they're not sucking up all the pilots the way they were. And I think some of them, I forget if it was UPS or FedEx, some of them are siphoning them off to, I can't remember if it was Republic or Envoy.
It was FedEx that was doing it, yeah.
FedEx is moving them to one of the regional carriers. It was American Eagle who they're moving them to, moving them straight to American Eagle. So that's good. They're our regional partner. So maybe that's a sign that things are starting to let up a little bit. But I think we're still going to have, a couple more years at least of lower numbers because we just don't have the crews and airplanes in the slower season to bring here. So again, if you know people interested in aviation, keep encouraging them. Good way to go. Certainly jobs out there. So we'll keep working through that. The RBC Heritage Partnership, we've talked about that a few times in the meeting, and I've met with Ann and had emails with some of you folks who are working on that with me as well. I had a good meeting with their leadership group, and we're looking for some opportunities. I should have a proposal from them any day on some bigger opportunities to sponsor part of that event. We've got some small community air service development grant funds that we can use, so that'll allow us to participate at a pretty good level here for the next couple of years. But it's probably a partnership that we want to consider as a strategic partnership to maintain, as we progress. It's definitely a good event to be partnered up with. So more to follow on that once we get the proposal, once we decide what that's going to look like. And then the Concord partnership, trying to remember, I guess our last meeting was after the Concord, so we told you about that. But the Concord's got a new executive director who's somebody's got a lot of experience running these events. He's been at Amelia Island, all over the place. There was one
LA. He did one out in LA.
Yep, out in LA. So he's run several of the bigger Concord events. Very well connected. So we're looking for some pretty exciting things this year, just in our small partnership with them. Very much a fan of the airport portion of the event. He loves that. And so much so that he wants to try to get an airplane somewhere on the golf course. So I was going to recommend a couple of pilots to him, but we stopped short of that. But that's a good news thing. It's been a great partnership. It's a fun event. I think a lot of folks in the town have a good time, going to the Friday night thing and getting to ride on the taxiway if they get a chance. But it's a great partnership, and it's going to get bigger and better, I think. So we're excited about that. And then lastly, up at ARW, we're going to do a check presentation to the folks that we partnered with on our 5K. A couple years ago, you guys authorized us to help support a nonprofit up there that provides aviation education experiences to youth who would not otherwise necessarily be exposed to aviation. It's called Altitude Academy. So we're going to present a check to them on the 31st. So if anybody's out and about, come on over to ARW at 10 o'clock. We have I think we're getting a giant check, are we? Yeah. You already have one? All right. It's going to look like the Publishers Clearinghouse thing, just not quite as many zeros, but maybe we'll have some balloons though. But it's a good cause to be behind. And I know last year, I think I mentioned, they received a scholarship from the Aviation Association, and that allowed them to buy a simulator. So now they can get the kids actually doing some sim flying, so that's good. But anyway, good group to support. We're excited, and we're finally able to present them with a small, big check. So we'll be doing that on the 31st. And then our buddy Chase in the terminal has received his learner's permit to drive. So if you've seen his smiling face in there, he'll be practicing out on the roadways. But he's a good friend in there in the airport. He's there Tuesday, Thursday, and I think, is he still coming Saturdays? I think Saturdays too. So he spends about half his day in there, and he welcomes everybody who comes in. He just kind of hangs out with the deputies. And I'm sure he's soaking up some good airport stories while he's working there. But he's great to have in the terminal. He's there in the summertime as well, working with the ambassadors. So he's kind of our friend of the airport in the terminal, and he'll be out there on the road. So I guess if you want to take that as under advisement, take it under advisement.
Is he going for his pilot's license next?
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's very interested in aviation,
Very
so
well.
all things airplanes he's interested in. So I definitely wouldn't put that out of question. He's a pretty ambitious young man, so we're lucky to have him. And last but not least, guys, don't forget this. I did already and got in trouble for it. So Valentine's Day is coming up. Here's your fair warning.
How could you have already forgotten about something that hasn't happened yet?
Because something was happening on the same day, and my wife said, "Oh, that's Valentine's Day," and I said, "Is it that day or the next day?" And she's like, "You don't know what day that is?" So anyway, don't be that guy. All right, any questions for me? It's easy. All right. Madam Chairwoman, it's all yours.
Moving on to unfinished business, isn't that your area as well?
Yeah, we can do that, I suppose. Yeah, let's get you up to speed on the Leo services. I guess I should exit out of here real quick. All right, let's see if we can bring our people back. There we go. All right, so we figured out the Leo situation for now. What we're going to do is the sheriff's office has agreed to provide 40 hours of service each week, which is great. And then what we're going to do is work with Securitas, who's our private provider, to provide those additional hours. So they have to staff up with some armed guards, and they have to get their sled cards and everything, but they do that. That's part of their normal thing. So what we're doing as a department and as a county is we're just executing an addendum to their agreement. It's on the administrator's desk for signature as we speak. And that will allow them then to just kind of fill in the extra hours that the sheriff's office can't provide beyond the 40. And we'll work with all the scheduling and management of that, because there's definitely those 40 hours are golden to us, and there's some 40 hours that we definitely want the sheriff's deputies in there for. So we'll coordinate all that. But the good news is sheriff's deputies are staying. They might have limited hours, but I think it's a huge win that they're staying with us. And we'll just backfill that with our private folks. So they're working
Don,
together
can
well.
you comment on the financial difference there? It's my understanding that Beaufort County gets a reimbursement from the federal government when they provide services. Is that correct?
Yes. There is obviously a cost that goes with having armed personnel in there, and it's mandatory per DHS, per
Right.
federal law, to have the law enforcement in there to watch the checkpoint in case anything happens in the checkpoint. And that costs the airport money, and then the airport has an agreement with TSA for a reimbursement. Now, it's only a partial reimbursement, so we only receive probably depending on the numbers, usually between 30 and 40% of what we spend, we get reimbursed back from DHS. So it's an unfunded mandate, again, by the feds. So that is a cost that we absorb at the airport, and we'll figure out the financial implications of this new system. I don't think it's going to be that much different than what it is now. But the good news with all of that is now that we went through the cost recovery model that we completed in spring of last year and have that on board and in action now with the airlines, those costs that are incurred that are directly attributable to the airlines are now paid by the airlines. So I won't say that cost is not a concern, because we're still always having to be careful and to brief the airlines on things, but that requirement exists solely because we have commercial air service, so they will bear the burden of that cost through the cost recovery model. So I hope that wasn't
Yeah,
too
well,
crazy.
yeah, I guess what I got from that is there's not going to be a large cut in our revenues by using Securitas, using a private.
Exactly. There will be no cut in our revenues from this service, because due to the cost recovery model, we'll enter these expenses into that, and they'll be allocated to the parties that should be paying those. Because that's not it's an airport expense, but it's not. It's assignable expense, if that makes sense. Okay.
How many more hours beyond the 40 do you anticipate on average needing to fill?
We ran a report over a full calendar year. We just did it, so it gave us all of 23. And the average number of hours per week were really only about 64, 65.
Okay.
Now, that's average, so that includes the summer months and the winter months. But on average, it's not terrible. There's 168, is that right? 168 hours in a month, or 158, or in a week, I mean. Anyway, we don't staff it 24 hours. Obviously, we don't need to. So it only needs to be staffed just before that checkpoint opens until the checkpoint closes. So we're going to be able to cover that gap, and I don't think it's going to be as drastic necessarily as we
Okay,
maybe
yeah.
initially thought it was.
Of course, the winter time is easier because you're not as many flights. Summertime is more, but the wild card obviously is you have delays because of weather or maintenance or something.
That's right. And you have to
There goes
look
your
at this
estimate.
from the private provider's side too. It's not like we can tell them to go home for 3 months, because they're hiring people to staff this job. So they've got to get some hours. So we're not going to be 100% efficient, saving tons of money doing this, because we've got a private company on board here now. So they're going to have, as we figure all these hours out, they're going to have to, find a sweet spot where they can keep people on staff. Because if you don't give them hours, they're not going to stay. And then the problem does get bad. So I guess my point is, if the delta on a weekly average is 24 hours, that may not be our only cost. We might have to pay for a minimum number of hours in order to keep a private company on board. So unfortunately, that's one of the things we'll deal with. But I think we'll be able to work that out. So hopefully that makes sense. Any other questions on that?
When do you anticipate this, I know we have to vote on it today, but when do you anticipate the private service will start?
That will be, well, as soon as the administrator signs it. So I've represented to him that you all have been briefed up on this and would be in favor of it, so please be in favor of it. So that they would be under contract now. We've already had a discussion, and they're looking at the hiring process and the training process already. They were willing to do that based on their conversations with the sheriff. So they're already getting ready or gearing up to bring folks in and get them on post. We don't need them on post right now because we don't have 40 hours worth of gate time. So the deputies are able to cover everything right now. So I guess the answer to that is when the season starts, that's when we need to be ready. And we will be. Looks like we'll have enough time to be there.
When's the season officially start for us, April or March?
I would say end of March, beginning of April. Yep, that's when it really starts kicking into gear. The other two airlines come back end of March, first or second week of April. So by the Heritage, we're really ramping things up. And then some of those seasonal flights come back, usually in the May timeframe. We don't have those schedules yet, but usually they. Right, and then the last one is the exec air property acquisition. I was hoping I was going to have an action item for you there to talk about, but we don't. That one's ongoing right now, and it's just a matter of finding some staff time to get that worked out, some legal staff time. Our legal team's pretty busy, so I don't have an update on that, unfortunately, so.
Are you talking about that little sliver of land, an island?
Right. Point. .16 acres, I think is what it is.
An island on an island.
Sorry?
An island on an island.
An island on an island, exactly. Yep. All right, so that's all the unfinished business. And then moving on to the new business, the first one is that Securitas contract addendum. So hopefully you have enough info on that now.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve action item 1, recommendation to approve Security Services contract addendum, addition of armed security guards at the terminal, Hilton Head Terminal. Chris, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action item approved.
I'm,
Did you vote
Oh, you're
against?
kind
I was for, but it was a weak for. That's what I was signifying.
That's a weak freak.
Yeah,
At a half vote? I don't think we've ever had a half vote.
yeah, I just don't have a warm fuzzy here.
He's outvoted anyhow, so.
I know.
Hilton Head Island Airport recommendation to approve Talbot, Bright, and Ellington work authorization, 2119-2304, St. James Baptist Church acquisition and relocation. Do I hear a motion?
I'll do that.
If you want to give you a quick
Yeah, I wanna
thumbnail
hear
sketch
about
of
it.
what that is, that, again, we're getting these things approved. We may not execute everything right away, but we're going to get these approved so that we can take them to council when we need to. But this is a work authorization to have Talbot, Bright, and Ellington execute the environmental assessment that will be required as the environmental documentation into the property acquisition for the church. Now, that work authorization has been discussed with the FAA, and it will be funded by the FAA. They have told us that they've got discretionary money that's quote-unquote earmarked for this project. It's important to the FAA at a high level to get this project done. So they've let us know that there will be funding for this in a discretionary grant. So that's why we want to bring this forward to you.
I'm missing something. Why are we looking at the property? What is it going to be used for?
This is the church that's at the end of the runway.
Okay, that's where I couldn't tell. I saw the blow up, but not blown up far enough so I'm trying to figure out, that's the hard part for not being in Hilton Head. I could see roughly where it was at, but I was like, that looks like it's in the middle of nowhere. Why would we be looking at
It's
it?
the steep we almost hit sometimes, Chris.
Okay.
For the runway.
Hey, John, what about the follow-on for design and construction? Is that something that is being done as well by the airport and FAA, or is that just getting turned over to the church to do?
That'll come at a later date. We've got a whole group. We just met yesterday, actually, a stakeholder group talking about the project. All of the design and construction will be discussed in greater detail later on. The church, the whole of the town, the county, and the church have come together, and there's an owner's rep that's working with the church right now, and they're going to help get the consultants on board, like the architects, the engineers, land planners, to start working on the site layout and those types of concepts. So that's down the road a little bit, but the first step in the process, since we'll be looking for some federal dollars, is to satisfy that NEPA requirement, which is the environmental assessment. So that's what this allows us to do.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor from Mark, and I need a second from
Brian.
Rich.
No, Brian, second it.
This is for vote on Hilton Head Airport recommendation for Talbot, Bright, and Ellington work for the St. James Church. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we move on to the third action item, Beaufort Executive Airport, resolution to approve a commercial operating agreement between Beaufort County and M&L Mobile Detailing. You want to talk about it first?
Sure. This is we have to take all these operating agreements to council for one reading for resolution, just to meet the legal requirements, but it's pretty simple, non-tenant commercial operating agreement. These folks are local. It's a nice veteran-owned business that comes in and does mobile detailing. They do vehicles, but they also do airplanes. They've done a couple out of ARW and do a really nice job out there. So what they'll do is enter into this agreement, and it's a fixed fee per visit that they pay the airport for the ability to come on and do business. So pretty simple, straightforward.
So they've just been operating without that agreement thus far? And now we're
For the couple times that they've been in, once, because, I mean, that happens. People, set up an appointment, and then we do the inquiries and find out, hey, are you guys going to be recurring? Are you going to, be building up the business or whatever? And when we determine that, yes, there'll be repeat
Yeah,
businesses.
they just washed my
airplane.
airplane last month.
Yeah, they do. I brought them in.
I heard about
Yeah,
because they
they're-
said they did yours.
they
And
do
well,
very
they did
good
yours, they
work.
can do mine.
Yeah, and they're very, very reasonable in their price, but no, apparently they're going to be $75 higher.
Got it.
That one out, huh?
Could have locked in early.
It all ends with the consumer.
Yeah, they did a good
Yeah.
job.
They do a very good job.
All right, that's all I had.
I need a motion to approve action item 3.
So moved.
Second, or Rich, you're right on it, aren't you?
Well, I want to
He's,
support,
I don't know how he's beating those other two guys just left every time.
Rich was hoping to beat his record, but I think we've gone past. Or maybe he's trying to keep us from beating it. I guess that's what it is.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? There are none, so the motion is passed. I guess that's it for the
Thank you.
voting.
Yeah, it takes care of all the action items. Thank you for
All
that.
right, we'll move on to chairman update, which there is not one because the chairman's not with us today. Are there any committee reports to bring up?
Yes, the local Hilton Head Airport Committee met in November, and we have, with the help of John, a meeting planned for the airport staff on
January.
January 30th at 3:30 in the afternoon, 2600 Road. People are invited if they want to come.
What does this committee do? What does he?
It's basically duplicating what Chris was doing over at Beaufort County Airport with regular meeting with the people that operate on the airport to talk about issues, concerns, and just overall, so that there's no misconception about what the airport is doing with the people that operate on the airport.
It's not, is it open to the public too?
Well, the invitation was sent to the airport users, but it's a public meeting, as I understand, right? Can anybody come or not?
I don't know if it's technically a public meeting or not. The intent is for airport users because
Yeah. I mean, it's not advertised to the public, let's put it that way.
That was 30 January at 3 o'clock, you said?
3:30.
3:30? Okay.
Ryan is the exec air at this time. Did you get any feedback at all from the other users?
No, but that's mostly because we don't have an easy way to contact the other users for confidentiality reasons. That email list and their contact information is kept by John's office. That'll be a future thing after this is done.
yeah, we'll see how this goes. And then, because it has been useful at ARW, I think, to get
Yeah.
everybody together. And the attendance has dwindled up there, which is, I don't know if that's good or bad. Maybe
I
everybody's
think
getting
that's
their
good.
questions answered, but I mean, we like to have them there. I know we've got another one coming up in February. Last Wednesday of the month. So ARW guys, talk to the tenants. We'd like to have them there. We always put an agenda together, and there'll be kind of an open discussion part, but there'll also typically be one item that we want to kind of focus on, whether it's a safety item or a compliance item, a policy item, whatever it may be, but something that we want to have a chance to speak to the tenants about. So it's a good opportunity to come in, and if there's something on your mind, if you heard something through the grapevine and you want to confirm that or deny that, come on in and find out from us. We'd much rather have people come in and ask us a question than start the hangar rumor mill going, because that, like any other rumor mill, can be damaging to an airport.
Yeah, I think the first one we had a lot of attendance. I think that mitigated and got everybody kind of calmed down and realized, oh, okay, well, it's not as big a deal as I thought. So I was a little disappointed, actually. In the last one, we had like 4 people, and me and a buddy of mine who just brought my plane back from Hilton Head were 2 of those people. But you got to have them, you got to offer them, and hopefully people will understand that they can get involved and understand what's going on.
I agree with you. I think that's the big key is less people there. Doesn't mean they're not paying attention. It's that there's not the issues that they thought were there, that they found out a lot of them were not issues. So I think probably the next big thing that we announced we're going to have a lot of people show up for. That's what I believe.
Okay, good.
Okay, Councilman, did you wish to comment on this item?
If I may, Chairman, Brian, were the council's town and county advised or invited to this meeting?
No.
Should they be, or does that?
Well, I mean, I don't think so, because as John just said, this is really for the airport users, not for a public, we're not going to be talking about anything that the town really needs to be involved with.
Okay, any other committee action that wants to come up? So we will move on then to citizen comment or any comments from our elected officials. Go ahead, David.
This may fall into the bucket, it's none of my business.
So moved.
But if there is a quorum of the airport board at one of these meetings that you were just discussing, it is a public meeting.
Right.
So deal with that the way you want to deal with it. And the other part of my comment would be, sometimes in the long run, it's better to have the public perceive it as open so that if there is an issue, they can be a part of the conversation. So, your choices.
Any other comments?
So we'd have to be at 6 for a quorum, correct?
Well, we have 7 today, you're talking about.
No, I'm talking about Brian's meeting on the 30th. We'd have to be at 6 board members to make it a public meeting.
Yes.
Okay.
Have less
So
than
I don't
6,
think
you're
there'll be
okay.
6 of us there.
As far as I know, right now, there's probably going to be no more than 2 or 3.
You and I,
What I've heard. But it's similar, I mean, we're trying to use the model over at Beaufort. Beaufort, your meetings are not public meetings where the county people come or town people go to, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Correct, yeah. Because the main thing is for the tenants that are there to find out what, you know.
Best thing to call it, tenants
Yeah,
meeting.
and really the biggest thing is really what we found is it's a communication. Communication was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
they below a quorum.
And making sure everybody understood if they have an issue, where it goes, and if there is an issue, let's talk about it and find out, is it a true issue or a myth? And a lot of them were myths.
The guidance, Councilman?
All righty, I think we're ready to move on to adjournment. Yes?
Actually, I have a question.
Okay.
For John. Almost done. I like this 1,200 arrow information. It gives a lot of new insightful information that I hadn't seen before. It's interesting to see who's coming and going and where they're going. But maybe you can explain to me the difference between operations reported by 1,200 arrow. In this case, Hilton Head Airport, December 23 had 506 operations. But then the tower report says that same month there were 2,300 operations. So what's the difference?
I'll have to look into that because it's a software thing versus
Yeah.
what the tower's recording, so.
Right.
Is the tower reported takeoff and landing is 2 operations?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I thought.
But that's still a big number
Because I
difference.
thought initially, wow, Hilton Head has as many operations as executive does, but that can't be right. And you look at the tower ops and you go, for the tower report, you go, well, that's, it's 4 times as many according to the tower report. So I just wondered the difference. And I know it's new software, and I don't know if we're comparing apples to apples by doing a full month of December, but just curious. But I do like all the data, where the planes are coming from, the types of operations, the types of airplanes, where they're going. That's really nice information. Just a question on the data, the numbers itself.
It's very helpful too when, we get the occasional, fan mail, so to speak, that comes in. And having this software allows us to look at maybe what was going on during the period that the caller may address as an issue when they send in an email or a voicemail. We can find out exactly what was flying there.
Yeah.
So it is helpful. I mean, we've had military aircraft fly, and sometimes at night that sounds like it's a little bit louder. But it's good software to be able to pour through the details.
Yeah, absolutely. I really like seeing that. Just a question on the difference in the number.
Yeah, we'll find out about that. I'm not sure exactly what the answer is on it.
All right, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you. Fourth Thursday, it's because we're at a conference a week prior, so.
February 22nd? Sure that's not the 3rd?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. thought
I
there
think because February 1st, I think February 1st is a Thursday. I think that's right. So this is actually, the 22nd is the fourth Thursday, but we're going to be at the state conference on the third Thursday.
Okay, so our next meeting is Thursday, February 22nd at 1:30 PM in Beaufort County Council Chambers. With that, motion to adjourn?
Chris has already motioned to adjourn, and I seconded it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.